Google stop. Tried searching for server error 500. That's
I mean, yeah, but that's just typical stuff. You're not going to be able to figure out where it's from with searching that one.
template name is not equal to error 500 template name. We'll do that.
Put your mic on, sit down.
Fuck off.
You are doing all the
I don't like.
presentations.
I don't like sitting like. I feel like I'm at the dentist, you know. Like
Yes,
apparently,
I'm good.
he hits me with that like half an hour ago, you know. He's
Yeah.
like, "Yo,
I know how you are stressed under pressure, you know. So
not me stressed under pressure. I just
Yeah.
don't like. I don't know.
you
I'm
don't
more of a
like-
one-on-one type of mentor,
Yeah,
you know.
so
Like,
you can mentor me now today.
don't I do that every day already?
Yeah, well, now you have a live recording that it actually happened. Yeah. 0 according to this one. Dee. Hello guys, welcome to lesson 7.1. So week 7, basically it means you are 70% programmers already. So congratulations to you. You pretty much know everything, except you probably are not sure how to use CSS, JavaScript, and all the other little things. So I have my guest speaker who is going to teach you everything about it. But he doesn't know what he needs to teach you because I didn't prep him for this thing. So Thomas and me are going to have a lovely little conversation about how and why we make stuff look nice, okay? So a long, long time ago, probably 40 years or 30 years, when programmers were doing programming, they were typically starting from scratch, okay? So they would write a program which would calculate something, all right? And that program, they wouldn't care one bit about user experience, user interface, okay? Because probably they were the only person who's going to use that program ever, okay? So if you want to calculate taxes of some big American corporation in 70s, you can write a program for that, but you are probably going to be the only person who's going to execute it and so on. So you need know what you need to fill in, where you need to fill in, how to submit the data and so on. If somebody else tried to use that program, they would never ever be able to do that. So if we go 10, 20 years forward, they figure out, oh my God, we need to actually teach people how to use computers and so on. So they were writing books. So you would buy a program and then you would get like 1,000-page manual, how to use, how to, you know, printed manual, you know. So that was lovely. You would study it, you know, which was just great, you know, because you couldn't Google, you know. It was just, oh, read, and hopefully they got it right. And it was extremely complex how to use these programs too. If you are curious to try to see, let's say, WordPerfect first version, you know, how to use, it's like nano text editor, okay? So it was horrible. So we went quite far from that. We want to make sure that these days users don't need 5,000-page manual to how to use a computer or program or our application or website. It should be intuitive, okay? It should be very easy to use. So how do we make it intuitive? Okay, so that's why we have Thomas here, because he made lots of things intuitive in his life. You know, he worked for NASA and Microsoft and worked for Disney. He was a lead role in what's it called that singing Prince, you know, Frozen shit. You know, that was him. He was singing.
I was Elsa.
Yeah, Elsa. There you go. Yeah. So, but now in his spare time, he occasionally comes here and shares his wisdom of how to make people actually understand the user interface. All right. So to build the user interface, unfortunately, we still use HTML. Yeah. So that hasn't evolved, even if there's HTML5.
We're at 5 now.
Yeah. So what's the difference in HTML5 compared to 4? What is the greatest shit that they invented there?
I have no clue. No, I think the biggest difference between 4 and 5 that was actually good is like the video players, like implementation. Now you no longer need Flash and everything. Like HTML has it all built in now, so like it's a lot more user friendly. Like you don't need to install extra plugins and all that crap to actually watch something, and it's smoother experience as well. But for the rest, I don't know. That's the thing with a lot of these versions. Like it's a new version. What changed? Nobody knows.
Yeah, but it's better.
It's better. It's like Windows 11. You know what changed?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work, but it's better.
Yeah. So the same thing with HTML, we use CSS to style things, okay? And CSS was bunch of, it was just a list of stupid color. This is blue, this is green, this is yellow, this is 100% width, this is half width, you know, but CSS also improved from that list to much more complex CSS with variables and crap like that.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So yeah, I think CSS, like we're at 3 now. I have no clue what the actual number is, but obviously CSS cascading style sheets, it describes how the page needs to look like. I think most people know classes. You have identifiers, you have selectors, you have pseudo elements, you have so many things in CSS. I could talk about things all day, like media queries, breakpoints, like you can keep going, but it helps the page to look the way we want it, so the user has a visual experience that makes sense, right? And it's basically the part next to HTML that makes your HTML clean. So it's just like layout in HTML and styling in CSS.
So the HTML is just like blocks. I want to have block with this text. I want to have block with this picture. I want to have block where people enter their stuff. That's what you put in it, and then how it's going to look like, you do it with CSS.
Yes.
What is this SCSS?
SCSS is a file format. It's called Sass as well, which is like it's a layer on top of CSS, which makes it easier to write it with more structure. It has some extra functionalities. You can literally write functions in it like you would have in a regular programming code. So while this is not required for specific styling by itself, there's a bunch of things like Tailwind, Sass, on top of regular CSS that allow you to like code your styling and like make things easier as a developer as well.
So what can you do with it? Because obviously I know I can do like red, I have a hamburger menu which is red, okay? And then when I click on it, I typically say JavaScript replace this image of hamburger menu with open hamburger menu image, okay? But in CSS you can do all the animations and stuff these days.
Yeah. So CSS, like I said, we're at version 3, and a lot of the things that were implemented originally by those extra things like Sass and Tailwind and stuff are being implemented in base CSS now too. A big example, for example, is variables in CSS. You're being able to actually change what's in a variable, and by applying one style to the entire page, like to the body element, affecting all the elements underneath it, how they look like, color-wise, for example, is a big one. And that's an example, but what you also, for example, have is stamps. So basically something that recurs a lot, which we see with Bootstrap and stuff. You see a lot like display flex. So you center an element. If you have to do that on every single layout block in HTML, if you have to do that for every single class, it takes a long time. But with SCSS, for example, you can be like, okay, I want to make a mixin, which is like a stamp, and then you can just call that in whatever class, and it's going to implement all those specific things from that in that class without having to type it entirely out, especially if you have a very big list of things that recur a lot of times. It really adds up in how much time you save.
Okay. And we also have a JavaScript, okay? So JavaScript for me was typically, okay, if I need to do a few things, all right? So let's say I want user clicks on something and I want to send a request and update my page without reloading the page. So that would be one thing. Or some sort of animation like open close menu or something like that, okay? So that's why I would typically use JavaScript in the older days of internet. But now these days you can program the whole website with the JavaScript.
Yeah, so JavaScript is basically anything that has to do with interaction. Like if the user does something with the website, usually it's going to be handled with JavaScript, and then JavaScript will have functions that actually do what is required, whether that is sending data to the server or adding a style to an element. For example, you have a hamburger menu. If you click on it, there gets a style added that's called open, and then the hammer menu, instead of 3 lines, it turns into a cross, for example. These little things are done with JavaScript, and it updates on the fly the HTML. We call that the DOM, like DOM. I don't know what the abbreviation stands for, but basically it adjusts what's going on with the page on the fly, so the user can actually interact with the page, and there's that interaction between what the user sees and what's going on in the background.
But we can also use frameworks like Angular or Vue.js or many others. So why would we do that?
Well, it's like anything, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you can make it easier for yourself by having things that are pre-made, which are logical, it would help a lot, especially for newer developers or people that want to like speed up the process. If they really know a framework really well, you can go very fast into like developing a project. A big example why we use these frameworks, and a great example is Bootstrap. Like Bootstrap makes it easy to have pages look good on any device if you use the basic functionality of it. Because otherwise you have to think about, okay, I need to have it work on mobile phone, on iPad. If you use the classes from Bootstrap, it's going to look okay, just unless you do like things that are not correct, right? But it helps, otherwise you have to manually set all that up and you're gonna be spending hours upon hours upon hours. So that's why people use frameworks. It's convenient. Like I said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like car manufacturers as well, they use parts that have been used for decades. Why would you make new ones if it already exists, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting because let's say business cards. We all know business card, and everybody knows what's the size of the business card. It's the same size. It doesn't go in the United States, Japan, China, here, same size. Okay, and you have a bloody name which is going to be slightly bigger than address over there. So there is a certain kind of standard. Even if you have many different ones, they can be on the right, left, and so on. But the font size is, I don't know, 12 points or whatever. 16. Doesn't matter, you know, but it's not going to be 300 points, okay? It's not going to be 6 points because you wouldn't read it, okay? So we have like standards how to make a design of a business card which we know exactly what size it is. Now the problem that we have with this website development, but also mobile, is that your name, your title, is not going to be the same size on any device. It's going to be different in size. If you measure it with a bloody ruler, because I have here 12-inch, 15-inch, 17-inch, upside down, left portrait, a small phone, big phone. So how do you deal with that in CSS if you don't have any of these good frameworks? How would you deal with that?
So to deal with that, you manually have to set up media queries, which is basically figuring out what the breakpoints are where a page has to start looking differently. Usually they recommend starting with a mobile view because mobile views are the hardest to get right. Obviously content has to go on a very small screen, and then building up towards a full screen version. So what will that look like is like, it's going to be something like for all screens between a width of 300 and a width of 800, use these CSS classes. And then from a width of 800 to 1200 and in portrait mode, use this. If it's in landscape mode, I want you to use this. So to manually set all that up, it takes a lot of time. Obviously, sometimes you will have to do that if you make custom content, but these frameworks like Bootstrap and several others, Bootstrap is just the most known one, have that in some capacity already set up.
So, but we even have now these digital watches, you know, you need to make the same thing on a even smaller screens than a mobile phone, you know, and then you have the huge bloody projectors and 4K TVs and 8K TVs, which have huge area to cover. Yeah. And the same website is open on all of them, okay? And it has to look good. But it doesn't have to look good, just one bit of information, just the title, but everything else has to be aligned to make perfect sense, okay? And this is a huge problem, okay? So if you are thinking of, okay, I have 3 images next to each other, but if the screen is smaller, what do I do? Do I make images smaller so nobody can see what it is? Or do I start putting them one underneath the other? Okay, but then a user has to scroll. It doesn't see all 3 images at the same time. They see one at a time, and it doesn't look very good on different resolutions.
Or it has a margin on the left, and then the row below has a margin on the right, and it's misaligned. So there's so many problems that happen because of the screen sizes, and that's why a lot of people, when they start especially, look at those frameworks that have it predefined, and make it easier to roll into it. You know?
Yeah. So as you can see that we have a big challenge in front of us. So all developers had the easy task. They were the only person who was going to use their application. You know, they didn't care. There was no input. There was no screen sizes. It was just their computer. You know, and it completely didn't matter that they printed upside down or left, right. They will understand even if they printed some hieroglyphs or whatever it is. It didn't matter. Now all of that matters. It doesn't matter which phone you have. You want the website to be perfect. As soon as it's not perfect, as soon as it's crap, it doesn't look good. What does everybody do with that website? Leave. They just go away. I don't want to see that website anymore. Okay. That is it, you know. So this is how picky these users are. I can't read what the hell you said because you're not mobile optimized. Bye. I'm not coming back to this website. Okay, so this is a huge problem, and what Thomas was describing earlier, it takes lots of effort just to put this different breakpoints for different screen sizes, but you also have to fine-tune it even further, portrait, landscape, this and that, and then you have to, if I have images, if I have videos, it's never ending. I want a sliding thing from this thing, I want the context menu to pop up, you know. So it is horrible, 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 and we are trying to use the same technology, in essence, which was invented 20, 30 years ago for basic websites. Here's the title, here's the picture, here's the text, done. Okay? So it is very hard and it's very long and boring process to go pixel by pixel, making sure you're testing and testing and testing on the various browsers, etc., till you die, and then you make it right, and then you let it out, and first person who opens it on a phone that you never thought of, and they say, looks shit.
Yeah, like one of those foldable phones.
Oh,
with
foldable.
Like super small screen on one side and a super small screen on the other side. These are the newest ones that are really great to work with.
Yeah. And they just settled on 16 by 9 or 16 by 10 then, and then they have like 4 by 4, almost, or 4 by 3 kind of old TV size. Now those Samsung Z3, whatever, Flex 3, whatever it's called, it's like a square. So you manage to fit everything like this, so you manage to fit everything like that. That's how you look like. Now you have to fit it in a square. Well done. Who is going to invest what next? There is like, why don't we have virtual reality and have everything around us, you know? Yeah, great. So what do we do?
Don't look at me.
So, guys, being a programmer 20, 30 years ago means you had to write everything, okay? Interface, functions, interaction with hardware, everything you would write yourself, all right? Now we have so many libraries that do these things for ourselves that we don't even write them. We just pick and choose and make them work together, okay? And if we want to get started, we start typically with some sort of framework which does what we wanted to do, you know, most of the functions, deal with the users, logins, you know, sessions and all this sort of stuff, okay? So why would creating visual elements be different, okay? We typically want to do is use themes, all right? So we use the themes which cover most of our usage, okay? Because these themes come with all written CSS, all what Thomas was describing, okay? All these JavaScripts that he was describing, they come with that, okay? And what we just need to do then is apply our context and make everything work together, connected with our data, okay? So it displays the information we want to display. So that speeds up our development process quite a lot, okay? But we say, what if my customer is Nike and they have unlimited budget and they don't want to use a theme? That's fine. We can build a theme for them, but typically, even that, they use Bootstrap and similar technologies to speed up that starting point, okay? Because there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just like my website Alibaba will be on the displayed on 50 mobile devices, and same Nike website will be on these devices. So stuff like Bootstrap is quite important, okay? So what the hell is Bootstrap?
Bootstrap. What the hell? That's a big question. Bootstrap is, well, it's more like a definition than a word, really. It ties everything together. It predefines things and like predefines how elements need to look like. So with an element, I mean like an HTML element, for example, a block on the page. It says this needs to look like that on that screen in that situation, and this is how we achieve that. And all of these are defined by class names, and you'll see those come back a lot. They usually have very short abbreviations as well to make them easy to remember. It's a grid-based layout most of the time as well. I mean, I don't even know where to start.
So we have abbreviations like MD, col, COL.
Yeah. So
is that Bootstrap?
yeah. So a good example, for example, is instead of having to write CSS for like I want to put a margin on top of like 32 pixels, you could write MT-32. I'm not sure if that one is going to be in there, but it's something like that. They have very like memorable ways of approaching the same problem. So since I said it's a grid-based system, usually what you have is you'll have a container element, a div, with class row. And then inside the container element that's called row, you'll have columns, like you would have in a table, right? Which will have the class col. And then you can say how many columns, because Bootstrap uses a 12-column system in their rows, in their containers. So you can say, I want this element to be 6 columns wide, so col-6, which will take up half the available space of that element, that parent element. So what happens is you can really easily build containers inside of containers as well to, like, for example, I want to have a widget inside a full page. So the full page is an entire square, but that widget is only half of it. So you make that col-6, which is half of the page. And then inside that, you make another row with again a col-6, which will be half of that container. And so you can go deeper and deeper and make smaller and smaller adjustments to get exactly the layout you want to have. And that's what a framework like Bootstrap is really good at. Obviously, it has drawbacks, but again, that's where you can still write your own custom CSS to override things or make your new elements. You're still not restricted to what it provides, but it's a good baseline.
Okay, so we have Bootstrap, which is open source. Everybody can use it. It's community built. I don't know who is running that, but it doesn't matter. It's very useful. It's kind of like industry standard. Lots of people use Bootstrap to start with. Okay. So the teams that we are going to show today also use Bootstrap as a starting point, but they added many additional functionality. Because Bootstrap, when you look at it, it's not a design, it's a very basic, so you have a button which can be over 12 columns, so full screen, or half of the screen, or 1/3 of the screen, or it can be last third of the screen, but that's not a design. I want my buttons to be, with pointy ears and, pink and fluffy, and when I put the mouse over it, I want it to squeak, Don't we all? So the point is the Bootstrap is a starting point. It's some sort of thing which we also have to add browsers into equation, okay? Because every browser kind of interprets our code slightly differently. And of course, browsers do have bugs. So even if they try to interpret it the way we meant it, maybe they have bugs and things don't look exactly the same. So we have Chrome, which is the most used one. But how many versions of Chrome do we have? Well, we have Chrome for Mac, Chrome for Windows, and Chrome for Linux, which doesn't exist, so they build a Chromium thing, which is kind of built on same source code. Then you have Firefox, then you have Edge, then you have notorious Explorer shit, then
Opera,
you have Safari, Opera, Brave, And they're lovely, why would not every phone manufacturer invent their own browser? So you have some Samsung generic browsers and crap like that, and then people start browsing on telly, so you have a LG browser, okay? Each one interprets this slightly different, and it's trying to be also useful. And this is the worst thing when it tries to be useful. So it's like, yeah, why don't we make your drop downs look different? So if you ever put a native drop down on Mac and you click on it, that Mac browser on iPhone says, why don't I just give you this huge spinner so you can slide up and down and select the dates? So even they have their own behavior quirks, So how do you deal with all these bloody browsers?
You struggle. It's honestly sometimes a real pain in the ass. A great example is I was styling scroll bars, but for some reason, out of all the browsers, there's one browser that does not allow you to style your scroll bars, which is Firefox. And things that you use in everyday coding, display flex. Flex container is like a modern technology for CSS. In Edge, you have to use a different way of describing it. It's -ms-display instead of display. So there's so many small adjustments for all these browsers that make it a huge pain in the ass to know exactly where it goes wrong, if it goes wrong. Bootstrap does a lot of it already, and other things like that too. Mm-hmm. But again, it's always going to be a problem. This is not going to stop because every company or every team that works on these browsers have their own philosophy. They have their own desires and their own choices when they make these decisions, and it just we as developer have to navigate it and see what we can do to make it work.
So not that we just have that the whole crazy ecosystem of browsers, but then we have very specific set of customers which are typically governmental organizations and educational organizations, which they have their huge IT department, and this IT department for some reason lives in 1960s, okay? So typically what it means, they force everybody to use operating systems like Windows XP and Internet Explorer 6. So even if everybody in the world has the modern internet browsers which support what we were talking, HTML5 earlier and so on, you have these specific customers which don't. They can't see what you are seeing because they have some archaic crap and they are forced to use it, and so on and so on. And we even have a thing which is JavaScript blockers. So what's a JavaScript blocker?
It's the same like what most people have in here probably, like add-on blockers. Some people block JavaScript, so no code gets executed in the background after they pull a page. So obviously as a developer we have to take that into account and let them, the user know if the page doesn't display correctly because the JavaScript isn't loaded. Hey, the JavaScript is not loaded, this website doesn't behave properly if it's not loaded. So again, another thing we have to think about, and this is how this keeps adding up. All these things we have to think about if we make everything from scratch.
Yep, not easy. So there are multiple reasons why choosing the themes which are based on Bootstrap, which speed up our development, okay? But they also resolve one problem, is typically customers don't have money to design their own look and feel. And they look at themes like this and they say, oh, that looks nice. That's nice and organized, I like that, okay? So just change the logo from this Metronic to my company name, and I'm happy with that, okay? Saves money, saves time, okay? But how the hell do we use it? And what is Metronic theme and what is Vuexy theme, okay? And why did we choose these specific two? This Metronic, I think it's version 5, okay, we are using version 4, maybe this is even version 8, I don't know, but it really doesn't matter. For what I want to show you here is that this theme comes with made pages, already made pages, made layouts, okay? And it is fully responsive. So if I do that and do that, you know, the page will self-adjust and still look really, really nice in all resolutions. Even if I create a tiny, tiny screen or a huge, big screen, it always looks very nice. Okay, so what I want to show you guys, okay, look at all these components. They are available for everything that we use, okay? So if I have a drop down, there is a new drop down here which says, okay, and it has these mouse overs and stuff like that, you know, so it's nice drop down. We have some scaling sheets, okay, I have some quick actions, whatever this is supposed to do. Profile pages, so little pop-ups, you know, notifications, see this little animation that pops up here. So I have menus, sub-menus, everything is sorted. I can close this, you know, mouse over. So there's lots of JavaScript, lots of stuff going on. And I can see the performance of this on my computer straight away. But this is using Bootstrap, as you will see quite, you know. So this is probably, let's say this is one quarter, so this is 4 column and this is 8. I think this is 1/3, 2/3, you know. Yeah. It looks like it. Or this is like 1/3, 1/3. So this is call 3, call 3, call, no, call 4, call 4, call 4. Yeah. So it together is 12. Okay. So we can see that they are using various things, various components, various elements that we can use to create our pages. Okay. So let's say we are talking about AI-Siha for a moment, okay? AI-Siha might have notifications, okay? So somebody suggested a new suggestion. They can appear like this on our system, okay? We can have trends, okay? So what is the trendy word? What is the mistake? We can display it like that. Who are the authors who are currently working on our application? Who are the users? We can show them like this, okay? Graphs, etc., etc. But this is not the only one. They come with various, you know, nice effects, nice graphs, as you know. So all of these components are available for us to use, okay? This one, and as I said, all of them are fully responsive, so as soon as I move to a different, you know, it's still readable, still works fine. But this is, we are talking just about dashboards, okay? And they provide us with, what, 15, 20 different type of dashboards. So all of this, when you get the theme, you get all of this sort of stuff, you know, out of the box. And I'll show you today with Thomas how to use this. But I want to show you more, okay? So then it gives you a list of typical pages, like frequently asked questions, classic. So you need the frequently asked questions on your website, AI-Siha, so people might need support, or what is this information, what do I do, how do I correct that? We can add it like this, okay? And, you know, so that's out of the box. The only thing what I need to do is put my questions here, instead of these ones that they have. But if I don't like this one, I can have it like that. So whatever that error is, I don't care. About us page, okay, fine. So this is a whole page. Basically, it's like a website. You have seen websites which looks like this over and over again, okay, because they are all based on similar Bootstrap kind of methodology. Contact us. You've seen this form. All of you, with the address, with the map, you know, telephone number, links to the social media, you know, so it makes our life extremely easy to create a new page which will look and feel absolutely great, okay? Our team, licenses, sitemap, okay, your accountant, okay, referrals, you know, so this looks something like out of LinkedIn, you know. If I want to see my logs, okay, so what happened in my computer. So you see why we chose this theme, because pretty much all the features of HubSpot's applications are covered here. I have logs, I have everything. I don't have to invent, you know, authentication, different logins, you know, basic layout, sign in, okay? Boom, layout one. Login screen. If I go here, authentication, basic, sign in. We don't want it like that. And of course, I can check it easily. This is how it works on mobile phone. Okay. So after authentication, there are various utilities like modals. What are modals?
Is that a question for this stream or?
Yeah, pop-ups. So invite friends, view users. So basically it gives me all the elements with the examples how I can use this. Okay, if you want model like that. Then what you guys been working on recently is forms. This is a form in a modal. So I'm still in a modal, sorry. So this is a form, you know, pop-up which comes and I fill in quickly some details and I submit this and so on. But you know, it gives me, and not just like form, it has these themes that if you choose it correctly, they give you the full functionality, you know, so what happens if the user didn't enter stuff, so see, it gets the little messages, is required and so on, okay? Wizards, create app. Okay, I'm still in models. I'm going to skip models for time being. Search. Okay, so I want to search for something, you know. What the hell is it complaining about? Anyway? Okay, don't know. This is a quick download, so I haven't tested it. Pagination, vertical users, wizards. Okay, widgets. You want a mixed widget, so you want stuff like this to appear, you know, with some information about various things. Fine. Then it gives you, what if you are building an app, such as like project management or e-commerce app? Let's look at the project management app. Oh, very lovely. So this is all my projects, okay, this is what I have. View project, this is project detail, how far we are with it. Do I have some sort of settings? Okay. All of that. E-commerce, support center, user management, content subscriptions, blah, blah, blah. So all the different types of typical apps comes with this. Different layouts. Okay, so it's not the only layout that I can have. I can have with a different skin, I can have minimized, you know, so I can have this layout if I prefer, so it looks like that. You know, light or dark or whatever. Different type of toolbars here at the top, you know, so all of that is available here inside of this app.
I think it's also important to like say that this doesn't mean that this is strictly used as this. The thing is, the beautiful thing about this is you can take something, an element from one page and be like, okay, I like this, I want this, but on another page. You just take that element and bring that to the other page and it's going to work. It's all in the same framework. And that's where you build the page you want, exactly with all these elements that you have in these themes, and you get a design that you actually are satisfied with.
Yeah, so these guys, what the hell? Was some pages are not working. I think when I was extracting this on my computer, it was complaining that some file names are too long. So because this is a Windows machine, so it complains. So if it happens, it's probably that. But see, this is one of the things what user experience people put a huge amount of attention. Okay, so you have on a web page lots of buttons, options, and stuff like that, okay? But if I color something in a thing which we call primary color, okay? This is the one that you kind of notice the first, okay? And you know this is your main action on that page. So it's very easy to find it. And if we are consistent, you know, so sign in would be a button, which is a primary button. Most people on the login page want to click on that sign in button, okay? If you are on a print something page, you want to click on a print button, you know, so it actually goes to the printer, you know, upload, whatever, you know. So those are the primary buttons. And then you have secondary buttons like, you know, maybe cancel or something like that. Then you have notification messages like something went well, success, okay? You are going to change something, you're not going to destroy it, but you are going to change it, so maybe I should give you a warning kind of color, but if I'm going to delete something, I'll give you danger color. And then info color, so this is just for you to read if you want, if you don't, you know, so people worked a huge amount of time to figure out how this works, okay? What is instinctive for our users. So we don't give them 40 kilos of manuals how to use our website. They just know, oh, that's the main button. I just keep clicking on the purple one or whatever the color is, and it will do what I expect it to do without reading every single line of text.
Consistency.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah. So this is really, you know, defined in these things, okay? Colors, logic, and so on. And I want to, in this first half of the session, and the second half will show you how actually to use this, for example, just to give you what you need to think about. And one of the key things is that we are consistent, what you just mentioned, okay? So all our buttons are primary. This is also a primary button. But if you choose this one, you can't have this one as secondary. You have to follow the whole rule, because somebody, you know, chose these colors deliberately, you know, they went to bloody school for 20 years and they come up with this color scheme here. Or if you prefer darker, you know, so you choose one of these three, but this is for the whole app, for the whole system, you know, and then it makes perfect sense. Same thing goes with typography, which I can't open here, but I'll open it later. It gives you height of the titles, subtitles, all that sort of stuff, very important. Now, one of the things that we have here is these things called cards, which are little like components of our website. Okay, I quite like these cards, but you have various types of cards. Okay, cards with the image, without the image, with the button, without the button, you know, image up, image down, and so on. You have seen this one every time when you log in the app source. Where the hell does it come from? Well, we are using the theme, of course, and that's the button there. You know, so they all have different purposes, and see, it's interesting, you know, this color scheme which I just talked about, they are applying them to these boxes as well. Because the one which, you know, draws your attention is probably what does the danger card says, okay? You know, and even if you apply them like this, you know, this one has a slight red circle, so it's not that in your face, but it still stands out. You're not going to accidentally click on it. So, just like the other one has many other things, but I think what I want to show you here, but Metronic has this as well, I just didn't say it. This is elements, so every single element that you can think of on a website is pretty much defined here, okay? So, see what I did. I just clicked on one. It did the little thing, you know, little animation. It just, you know, kind of like highlighted it, but it highlighted it in such a, it's a small and very pretty for me. But you might not like this theme, but you choose a different theme, okay? But just gives you that little, aha, I know exactly where I am in this form. You know, even if I look away, I look back, it's highlighted, okay? So these are kind of those bootstrap famous things, this LGSM, you know, large, small, MD, medium, and so on, so you can pick up what sort of size of your boxes you want. What if you have a file? Okay, so this is simple file input, but this is quite nicer file input, you know. Validation, what we just saw here. What if it's incorrect? What do I do? You know, input groups obviously doesn't work. Is any of these working? I'll go to their website. Radio buttons, same thing. Switches. And again, you can see that it has these 6, 7 words defined. Okay. Okay, so this is this typography what we were talking about, you know, so they figure out exactly what is the right size, correct size of all these different types of heading, displays, how do you put the text, how do you put the bullet points, lists, everything is defined, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So when I give you a task, typically, okay, I don't have to provide you with pixel perfect picture of how this page needs to look like, okay? Because this saves so much time. You just choose the elements which are presented here and make it consistent with the rest of the pages, so it's not that hard to create a new page with new look and feel. What did I want to do? What the hell is view select? Never heard of it. Okay? It's this one, so I can select multiple things. Now, it's interesting because we are working on Arabic thing, and all these teams also support right to left. So we read from left side to the right, but we can switch to right to left. So the theme can be right to left. So then all the boxes, all the texts, everything, even the menu goes on the right and it's kind of like mirrored. So it gives us a really easy option with just one line of the text somewhere to say, I want this right to left. And see now this drop down is automatically done here. If this is in Arabic or I don't know, Japanese or whatever language uses right to left, I don't have to program that. It's already there, okay? So very useful. Spin buttons. But I wanted to show you charts. So, Thomas, how hard it is to create a chart like this if you don't have these chart.js and similar?
I mean, I've done chart design, like chart making myself, and it definitely took me a few days to like get a basic one that doesn't even look that good. So that's another thing with these themes is it's not like the people who made this theme created everything from scratch as well. A lot of these themes bring multiple things other people created together into one bundle that is made to look exactly the same and like cohesive. So yeah, like it just saves a lot of time, honestly.
Yep. So, you know, creating a chart like this with these colors, it's ridiculously complex, you know, and even if I wanted to have little animation and be responsive and have two tones, so this has a dark and light theme somewhere, I can't remember where it was now.
Not in a smaller version. Right there, the moon.
Yeah. just works. Okay, so and they have what Thomas was just saying, that they didn't develop this themselves. These are all open source, pretty much, or paid sometimes libraries that we can use, and they are fully documented as well. You know, so if I want charts like this, if I want charts like that, fine.
You have multiple elements like that, like the swipers, the carousels. Usually those are all libraries that are public open source, which are adjusted to look more like the team, and that's why they are built in and come with it. Like here, the slider, for example. Like these are probably also made by a plugin. The swiper at the bottom is probably going to be Swiper.js. Yeah. So these are all non-standard elements which combine HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you have to write all of that yourself, you would be spending a lot of time. And then you have one element of your entire website, so you can do a lot of elements like that to actually have something. While these teams are usually made by hundreds of people working on the same thing with the same like design philosophy.
That's cool. I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, it's Swiper.js, like 3D like stuff. This is faux 3D. It's not real 3D, obviously, but it gives the impression of 3D.
Ooh. What's this parallax thing?
That's fun.
Well, what is parallax?
Parallax is when you have multiple layers that move at a different speed. They're basically on a flat surface, but because they move at a different speed from left to right, it has the impression that there's something behind it and moving a lot faster. It's like when you're in a car and you're going past the scenery, everything that's close to you moves by very fast, and everything in the background is very slow. And this effect, parallax effect, mimics that.
Yeah, and they also kind of support different languages, localization. So as you can see, I'm just changing this language from one to another, you know, so everything just changed. My auto translator is intelligent and translated back to English, so let me just disable it. Never translate this site. Okay, so French. Okay, so now it's all in French. I was like, I clicked on Portuguese and I still say English, like what the hell is going on? So, so see how much we have here, okay? It is astonishing quantities of the code, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, but they did not stop there, okay? They did not stop there because they also created the versions of this. If you prefer Angular, if you prefer pure HTML, if you prefer Vue.js, if you use Laravel, they even have Blade versions of these pages ready to be used, okay? And the last thing is they also give you updates, so you can update this, you know, if there is any issues or enhancements or new features. So once you buy this theme, guess how much this thing costs? All this work.
You want me to guess? Because I think I have a clue. Huh?
Is it?
Is it a subscription?
Well, I don't know. You would pay a subscription. How much you would pay to use this lovely thing? $2.
I think it depends how many people also use.
Well, let's say I build this website and it's going to be used by 1 million people.
I think it's a one-time payment.
It's free.
No. I think it's a one-time payment, and I think it's about 35 to 45 euros.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I would expect.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how much this costs, okay? So we have these amazing tools, okay? Guys, you know, when you install Node.js, Node modules, and you know, all those crap, you know, those are also amazing tools, but they are not as visually impressive as this is. So when you install Node.js and you have thousands of those files, basically you're installing pretty much quite a lot of software that helps you pretty much do whatever you want. But this is the best visual example of how we can speed up our process of development and also make it look really pretty and also care about user experience, even if us might not be very good at visuals. I'm not a graphics designer, okay? I know what something is straight or crooked or stuff like that, you know, but I can see the consistency, okay? I can see that somebody put padding here, so this change locale is not stick to the corner, so yeah, that looks good to me. And I don't have to worry about it. On the next page, when I open the next page, this whole thing, this default, is going to have exactly the same padding, is going to be in the same place, it's not going to start moving left and right, and so on and so on. And of course, they put a huge amount of effort in making sure that all the div tags and stuff like that is closed, so there shouldn't be any errors. So having said that, inspect element, console, oh wow, no errors. Context menu, no errors. Any questions so far? No? Okay, so let's have a few minutes break, and then hopefully we'll show you how to actually use one of these pages. We'll pick one randomly and just show you a few bits and pieces and show you our Laravel code, how it's already implemented and ready for you, so you just need to copy paste, literally. So talk to you in 4 or 5 minutes, guys. Thank you. See you soon. Yep, we are muted, so you don't have to take it off.
To a certain extent. It's a good baseline. You still need to understand what you're doing because.
No. I mean, you don't even have to pay for it. You can just copy it.
Oh, you do have to pay for it.
Yeah,
Well,
but what if you get the code from someone?
You still need the license. It's kind of like, you know.
Yeah. But then you can see how they do it and just implement it yourself.
Yes, but if you want to have to do all of that, like it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people don't mind that type of cost, and they don't care if it's only that little bit
Yeah,
yet, because there's hundreds of thousands of people that use this, because there's so many websites, and all they need is one license for, like, you know.
But how can they even get the license on stuff that is free, like this Chart.js, Bootstrap stuff?
There's I mean, those things have also like fair use licenses themselves. Like if you implement in something as a bigger piece, it has to be like, you know, used in a fair way. Like it's not like, oh, I'm just copying Chart.js and selling Chart.js as itself.
Yeah.
It has to be part of something else that is like an actual, like, you know, it can only be a small element of it. It's still open source and it's all free, but Chart.js is not what they're charging for. It's the styling, the theme, like consistency. That's where it, like the price of the tag comes from, and why they can't do it above as well. It definitely makes it sound like it's just copy paste, but you still have to understand what you're doing. If you like, and no matter what team or whatever like framework you use, you still need to understand like structure. If there's something going on, like, or if you have to make custom stuff, it never ends, right? But this helps a lot to start. He said, I told me like half an hour before, like, hey.
I found out two things. First of all, the API is not working, so the problem is mainly the API.
Right.
And then there's an error with the polyfills file. But the thing is, it looks way different on the staging side.
Polyfills is usually specifically for Internet Explorer and Edge, like for visualization.
not the issue then. Probably just
like most of the time when there's something polyfill related, it's like Google Maps or something, because Internet Explorer doesn't have certain things. Same with mobile devices. If it's an older device, sometimes you need to include those polyfills. It's like JavaScript and whatnot, especially if it's like a visualization related. So I don't think it's gonna be that, but
the code is written really bad. The code is written in a really bad way. Like I try to go to the back end, to the front end, to just understand anything that's happening. There is no way.
I mean, 500 errors.
You have it
related.
muted,
It's definitely
maybe.
backend. It's not gonna be front end.
Yeah, it's part of the API. The API is doing something.
There's something going wrong with the server, but what I have no clue. I need to figure out if error log actually has the correct error message. That's why usually having debug true. If you can figure out how to debug it, would be great. But I have no clue myself either.
Thing is, it's only the stable.
Yeah.
There's no one.
And I don't know why, because nobody made a change as far as I know, unless someone did and they didn't say it.
We can see it come up.
So guys, let's move on. Okay, it's a very short break.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's show you how this is done. Okay, so I'm going to do the easy part. Then I'm going to give Thomas a task. Okay, and he doesn't know what the task is yet.
They never
Okay.
told me that part.
Yeah, so he's going
I'm
to
going
do
home,
live
guys. See you
programming.
guys.
Live programming. Okay, if Thomas goes, then we'll just get Bernas to do it. So, yeah, so it's your fault if she ends up doing it. So what we want to do is just show you on any of these pages. Okay, if I right click and say view page source, okay, I get this. Okay, what the hell is this? Anyone knows?
Not saying anything.
CSS and Java to import them.
It's a link.
CSS and Java. So there's lots of CSS because you can see CSS, 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 Java, Java, Java.
Linking styles into the page.
Well, there's no page.
There is a button.
Hmm?
No.
So when I look at this page, but let me look at some other page. Let's and why the hell is this in German?
Because you said it in German.
Okay. Let's look at the sliders. Okay, these things. All right. So as you can see, I say single slider, multiple range of values, right to left, blah blah blah. I have like hundreds of these. View page source, not selection source. View page source. Bum 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 bum. Same page. Okay. Why is this like that?
This is how they protect their code.
No.
You're importing them like this.
Yeah. So Thomas, maybe you want to tell them what the hell this is.
This is just the HTML page.
Okay, but why don't I see multiple sliders, set multiple sliders? Why don't I see this?
That's the actual code of the HTML. So that's basically like everything, right? So like, yeah.
He didn't explain anything,
So
did he?
this is just calling the actual code.
No.
No, this is what makes up the actual page.
Yeah, but where is the page?
What do you mean?
But where is my text?
Oh, it's slower. Like in the beginning, up top.
Yeah, but this is the end. There's no more.
Oh, but this created with JavaScript, probably compiled in chunks.
Well, what is it then? Yeah, this is this version that I look at it right
this
now.
is Vue.js, so
It's
a
in
framework.
Vue.js. Okay, so my source code is, of course, on my computer, but then it compiles the page in the JavaScript, so the whole page is in these JavaScript chunks. Okay, so it's not that it's protected or something like that. The whole page, the whole logic of the page, everything is in these JavaScript chunks. So the data, the pictures, everything is there. Okay, So when I do Vue.js, it's lovely, but it's not very good for me. So what I'm going to do here is show you the HTML version of this. So if I go here and right click and say view page source, this is the same thing,
Yeah.
okay? That's the HTML page. And now I can see all these things that I just talked about, you know, line by line, all the divs. So all these divs are in the Java files, you know. So where's my same page, what I was looking at, slider in extensions. So let's go, do I have extensions here? Yep. Do I have sliders? Oh, they don't work, okay, on my computer. So I can't give you the task with sliders.
I mean, you can. Let's just
mm.
extract it again in a different
Yeah.
folder.
Yeah, yeah, but it's going to be the same problem.
No, just change the name.
Extensions, where are they gone?
There.
Where? I'm blind. Okay. Sliders, drag and drop. Clipboard. Oh, is anything working on this one?
You want me to do it?
Nah, it's hold on.
Do you still have the archive?
Yeah, but it's Windows. Not Pixabay, so Vuexy,
Xinvent.
Vuexy HTML template demo. I thought mine will be easy, but obviously it's not. This is Laravel admin template, HTML.
Vue.js again.
No. Okay, live demo. So, the Vue.js, they all put bloody Vue.js, don't have HTML on their site. Okay, so let me see one which works, okay? Well, this one works, but I don't want that one. I want something relatively simple. Card, advanced, okay? Okay, so let's see, I have this, I like this one, okay? So employee task, all right? So let's say I want my list of users to appear like this, okay? So I want their image, I want their name, I want their role, I want their some data, let's say date of birth, or something like that, and then what can we do in this diagram? I don't know, we'll figure something out, as I'll invent something as we go along, okay? So I want to create this little thing, okay, in my users, so employee task, okay, so inspect view page source, not selection, I selected something, view page source. Okay, and I will look for employee task card, okay? So this is the code employee task card. And you can see what Thomas was saying, you know, this is Bootstrap, MD6, large column, column 12. Why the hell do we have 3 of them?
So this is again what I talked about, these breakpoints. This basically describes how much space it needs to take up and what's the device. If it's a full screen device, it just takes col 12. Or like if it's a small size, col 12 is the default. If it's a medium sized screen, use half of the container, so call MD6. And if it's a larger screen, you don't want to take like the entire page on a big screen, it's only 4. So this is basically the shorthand for that.
So the whole thing, you know, this whole element, this box that I was showing, will on different sizes automatically take either full screen, full width, or half width, or 1/3 of the width, depending on the size of the screen. So, and so this whole thing is wrapped in this div, so basically everything inside will adjust accordingly, okay? And then we have H4, which we saw somewhere else. We know exactly how big this is going to be, which font it's going to use, etc., etc. Okay, and this is my card title, header of my card. Okay, what's the header of the card? Is this thing here. Okay, that's the header. And then I have the body, which has, you will see this kind of repeats. So this is a div, okay, but this is exactly the same div. Okay, so it's the same group, because it's one after the other. So what I'm talking about is all of these are same, they just repeat. So we don't need in our code to have this type 60 times. We put it in a loop. For each of our users, we'll render this bit of the code, okay? And this bit of the code will do some justifications, aligned in the center, and so on, and then it will put image which will have this height and width, and then it will put the name, and in small, you say small, and it prints it small, okay? So it's relatively easy to use, and then after that it has this chart, okay? Chart primary one. But where is this chart primary one? Where is this data coming from? Because obviously it's not the same for every employee.
Can I answer? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, so since this is the source, this is before the page is loaded. So probably, what I would assume, obviously I have no clue because I haven't seen it, JavaScript will change how it looks after it receives the information from the backend.
Okay, so in order for this to work, this page to work, we need to load a number of CSS files, okay? So for this page, it needs all of them, okay? But it needs all of them for all the components that are displayed on the page. So all of this is defined with these CSS files, okay? And for all the functionality, we have these JavaScript files that we are loading, okay? So probably this card advanced.js is exactly what we were talking about just now. And if I click here, see employee primary chart, data chart, so this defines all our little charts, and probably has some values somewhere showing what's the value of each chart. Okay, height, width, grid, padding, it's somewhere in there, okay? However, okay, so this is HTML, it's all here, I know what it loads these CSS files at the top, it loads these JavaScripts at the bottom, this is the HTML that I want to display, okay, this is the bit that I care about, okay? Now, I'm going to go to my admin in my code, all right? And I'm going to go to the resources, views, themes, Vuexy, okay, views, okay? And what I care about is a list of users, okay? So this is the one that I'm going to give to Thomas to change something in it, okay, for our purpose, all right? And you can see that this page, as we talked about before, has a blade. So it's Laravel blade, and it has section content, so this is what appears here, all right? And I would assume that at some point it will have a table, okay? And it will have for each user as a user, and it will print out some stuff inside this table, okay? So this is what I want to get rid of. I don't want table, I want this card that we just showed instead, okay? So I want to connect my users, but display them in this look and feel. As I explained in one of the earlier sessions, this extends layouts, master layout, okay? And if I look at this layouts, master layout blade, let me double click this, so, okay. Master layout blade includes head, okay? So includes head. So inside the head, I load these CSS files. Okay? So if I compare these CSS files, such as vendor score, etc., go back here, go back there, go to the, not to the JavaScript one, sorry, go back. So when I look at this, they are not exactly the same. Okay? They are not exactly the same, okay? Because see this theme layout and the vendor CSS that it has, I kind of compiled in one big file, so, or few of them. So this is core CSS, vendor CSS. So vendor CSS is this one. It's exactly the same, but slightly different. Okay, I did make some modifications to it, but very tiny modifications. So it's pretty much looks and feels exactly like Vuexy, all right? So this vendor's min is fine, but what my page, users page, is not loading is this one, okay? This one is missing. How do I know that one is missing? Well, let me go to my users. So this is the page we are talking about, if it ever loads. Okay, so I don't want this table users like that. I want to get rid of it. Okay, and instead I want to have all these people displayed with in the table that like that. Okay? I don't know what we are going to use chart, but maybe we can just drop them exactly as they are, okay? So sure. I don't care, all right? So if I right-clicked and view page source here, okay? So I'm loading vendor, I'm loading this Prism core and so on, whatever overrides, and then I have these two additional ones, because these are the ones which are missing, okay, and I need for this page to load. These are, as you can see, data table and data table, okay? So in order for this to look like this data table, I loaded 2 extra for this page only. So since we are not going to use data table again, we are going to delete those 2, but we are going to use, I think, Apex chart. So we are going to add this one to it, okay? So I'm comparing, you know, what is the core that every page has, what is extra that is needed here, okay? But then, see here, there's a little bit more. There's another app chart, no, this is app chat, sorry, that's the wrong one. Okay, so these guys, dark layout, border layout, semi-layout, components, I think this is what I compiled in one CSS file, so I don't have multiple ones. Same thing goes at the bottom, okay? So this specific JavaScript that Thomas was saying rightly, it manages those little charts and animations, and this one, additional, okay? So I will have to load them on my page in order for that to look and feel good, okay? And if I have additional ones, which I do at the bottom, which probably has something to do with the data table, yep, these 2, I don't probably need them because this page won't use the data table anymore. So that's the source code of my page. That's the page itself. So the head loads the big ones. I don't change the head because every page uses this. But inside of my users, this is additional ones that I added in page styles. And at the bottom, hopefully, I should have some JavaScript. Yeah, so this is the script for the data table, which fills in the data table, and this is something for modals for the delete users. So that can stay, we don't care about it, okay? So what Thomas needs to do now is just to modify this page. So, are you up for a task?
Always. All right. So, let's start at the beginning. little bit bigger so I see what I'm doing. Okay, so usually, like Andre said, I want to see what I will need from like JavaScript, CSS. I can see which elements are specific to this page. For example, this one, if I would need it, I would just inspect it, and then I can see in the console here where the CSS is loaded from. This is for the HTML tag. I don't see, inspect. There we go. So this is this apex chart thing. So let's have a look. Here I can see this bootstrap. This is apex chart CSS. So I'm probably gonna need that apex chart if I would use this thing. I'm obviously not gonna use it now because we don't really have anything to display. So I'm just gonna go with that card. So where is this? So this is the source of this page. So employee task card. Okay, so this is the row it's in. This is going to be here, this entire section, and this is just the column. So the first section is going to be this one. So we have the card, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just the first one here.
Yeah, selecting the header as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my goal. So card body, let's just take this, and then I'll close the divs at the end myself. So let's just close this down. This is the previous one. We will be commenting that out, but since I need the users, like the variable from the backend, which is in here, I can copy that part of the code later. So let's organize this a little bit. I just slapped this in here. I like to keep the indentation because then I can very easily see what closing tags I'm missing, right? You have a very weird keyboard layout. Right. And then I like at the end, after I do this, checking if I close this, it should match up, it collapses it properly, so I know this is correct. Now I see this starts with call, so I'm missing the row. I'm gonna add a div. You can also just do like this, which is emit. If you don't know emit, this is very useful. It makes it very easy to like make an entire div with the right class. You can use hashtag if you want to add an ID. You can like there's a bunch of stuff with it. Emit is really useful to look up if you haven't heard of it before. And you just press enter and it fills it in. So now I'm just gonna put this thing in here. There we go. Just gonna remove this image source because obviously we're not gonna have that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna temporarily save so I can have a look how this looks like. It's probably gonna look like crap. Where?
First page.
First page.
First tab, yeah.
It's probably gonna look like crap, but I wanna see where I'm at first. Okay, so as you can see, we have our card. It's 4 wide because it says col large 4. If I would change this to col large 12, it would be full width of the parent container. Let's show that real quick. There you go. As you can see now, it's the full width of the page. Obviously, this is very large, so we're not going to do that, but I wanted to show it so you actually see how Bootstrap works. So I'm going to change this to users, but let's use proper Laravel. Let's use this translation from here. We can reuse the code that we already had. There we go. So this is a line file. I don't know if I have to go that.
We explained trans
okay.
A couple of times. We mentioned it.
Okay. So as you can see, this is the card body, this is the card header. So this is the header, this we're keeping, and then the body is going to be every single user. So we only need one body, and everything inside that body, so this div right here, is one user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an for each using Laravel. gonna do an end for each here. There you go. I'm gonna scroll down as well, so I have a little look. Okay, so the parameter I get from the backend, from the controller, is $users. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna do for each $users as $user. So now I can use this $user, which is gonna be one of our users we receive from the backend, to actually fill in the information we want from the front end, like in the front end, sorry. So I have no clue what is in $users. I could check the controller. What I like doing is, if I'm working in the front end, so I don't have to go look in the controller and whatnot, I just do a quick DD, $user, dump and die. You've probably seen it before in the previous lessons. So now if I look here, I'll see in this attributes all the information about my user. So I can also see my photo, so I'll be able to use that photo. I can see the name, first name and last name, so I'm going to be using these in here. So sorry. So here I'm going to do $user first name. And I think I can just do that, I'm not sure. Last name. Actually, I want a space in between that, so I'm just gonna do like this. Oh. For convenience sake. And then, do I have a role here?
No, but you can put some gender, doesn't matter, okay?
Oh,
Put gender.
Okay, thankfully I'm male on here. Local, I'm somehow female because that was the default. So user gender, there we go. And then for the time, I'm just gonna set
Well,
B-day.
created that.
I'll just do birthday.
Okay, birthday is fine.
There we go. So now I don't need this DD anymore, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. Sorry. Alright. And then when we refresh this, we'll see what happens. So there we go. We have our list of users, male, 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 female. We have our birth dates. Now we can add the image as well. So with the image, it's a little bit different. What we get is just the file name in this situation. So we actually have to see what directory those files are in. In this case, it's default.jpg. So I think it's just going to be.
So everything we keep in public, everything that users upload, we keep in public, and then we have different folders for different types of things that they uploaded.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we have images. They can upload multiple images, like their company logos and so on. But then we have separate folder for avatars. So in this case, on my computer, you can see two files, default, which is if you haven't set up your avatar, that's what you are going to get, or some random number which I generate when you upload the file. So this is probably my user. You also see .gitignore, which basically says ignore these files, so don't send them to the repository, because if you upload your pictures on your local computer and click commit to send to repository, I don't need your pictures, okay? And other stuff. So this is why we are ignoring whatever you upload there.
So I think I actually have to use the
Yep.
full path here.
Yep.
So public images, avatars, and then as you saw in the DD, the file name was default.jpg, so this is going to be the default profile picture. And as far as I know, this should work. So let's have a look. And it did not, so I can have a little look. So it could not load the image. It did not actually get user image, so it's probably not image. So let me actually double check with the VD what the actual parameter or variable name was. probably just photo. So yeah, image is not gonna work if the name is photo. So now if I refresh, there you go. So as you can see, they're here now, but they're not really looking correct, right?
So why are they not looking correct? Because obviously first they are stuck to the left, then I think those were different shape. If you go to Vuexy thing, so you see that there's a padding, okay, and there's different fonts, and even the colors of the fonts are slightly different, I think.
Yep. So for that, let's have a look. Let's right-click, inspect this image. This is Bootstrap, avatar.
Yeah, but before you do that, well, what do you think went wrong? Because you copied the HTML, you obviously have the correct data.
Yeah.
What's missing?
Probably the CSS. So I'm gonna have a look at that.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to check the inspect, because then I can see actually like where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So card body, bootstrap extended, employee task, bootstrap extended, media, yeah. So I don't really see it straight away which one it is. So I'm just going to check the page source. Here we go. So vertical menu. Not sure if it's that one, but let's try it. So usually, instead of having to look exactly where it is, I can just do vertical menu. Control P is helpful, and you can find a file in your entire repository. So as you can see, we have two here. This is probably going to be the one that we're going to be using, because this is in my admin. So I'm just going to go here, so I can see. So yeah, this one is for the menu, so it's not actually what I'm looking for, but that's how I would look for it.
Yeah. So one thing that all the Metronic and Vuexy CSS files, all of them, and all the JS files are uploaded here. Okay, they are uploaded typically in two formats. Okay, they are uploaded in a full-blown format, but they are also uploaded in minimized format. Okay. So minimized format you have seen probably a few times, where everything is compressed and optimized, so it takes the smallest amount of space, but you can't edit that because it makes no sense. It's just gibberish in one line, extremely long line, okay? So typically what we do is we make edits in the normal CSS file, and then later on, once we are finished with that, we can compile them and compress them, and then those files become smaller. And if you have thousands of these CSS files, you can, but the problem is that each CSS file is loaded like separately. So if you have 5 million users on your server loading 5 million CSS files, that's going to kill your server. So this is why I like to compress those CSS files into like one bigger file, so it loads faster, it doesn't make as many requests. So that's optimization a little bit later.
Yeah.
Okay?
So in my situation here, let me actually do like this. So it seems like I'm missing in the card body, I'm missing the padding on the left, which comes, if I look over here, from bootstrap.css. So probably this Bootstrap version is a little bit different than the one we have, which is why it looks different. So I'm gonna have to actually add this myself or use the same version of CSS. So because this is what it looks like, so it's clearly this one, this class that's not correct. So
this is the thing, okay? So he needs to fix something. So maybe our Bootstrap CSS is slightly different, doesn't have those 2-3 paddings that are used here, okay? Now, we can change that Bootstrap CSS, okay? We don't want to do that, because if we change it, then every single page on every single application of AppSource will have that change too, okay? And we don't know, is that desired. We can add one of the files which is loaded. If you go to VS Code, please, just to show them, and if you go to head in includes.
Includes. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, it's includes head. Okay, so one of the files that's last loaded is this overrides. Okay, so basically what we are doing is rather than editing all these CSS files, modify them, we just put these little global overrides in that file, so it overrides whatever is defined before. Okay, so if we want to change something globally, this is the only file we added in case of global thing. But because he just wants to do it on this page, he can either do it in line, or he can put it in that style section as you've seen before.
As another thing, I'm gonna try and take it out, 'cause sometimes, let me see if this actually does anything. No, it does not make a difference. So, as you can see, I'm missing the padding on my card body on the left. So, there's no padding left, no padding right. So I'm going, this database custom, data tables custom CSS, this old CSS we no longer read, is actually overriding it. So as you can see, that's the real issue. So again, I went a bit too fast, need to take time and look. So I don't need this data tables CSS anymore, because obviously we're no longer using this data table. I'm going to save it. It already looks good because I did it in code, but there we go.
So the problem with CSS is the word cascade, because it does override everything. So if we don't need it, remove it. Okay, so I said at the beginning we are going to delete these two CSS files, but also those two JS files at the bottom, because they are doing something with some elements. Okay, we don't need that. Maybe they are modifying something here, maybe they're not, but let's get rid of them and then just add what we do need for this page in order for it to work. Okay, so let's do the spinners, but you can, what I want to do with spinners, that JavaScript, what they are loading,
right,
which I think we also have in the same location because we copied everything, including their demo stuff. That JavaScript has some data built in. So if you just copy paste those, in theory, they should work and display exactly the same ones, okay? But then if we have time, we might actually, we have like 20 minutes, so we'll see. We probably don't have time to customize the data of these ones, but let's try to have at least the visuals right.
So yeah, this is Apex charts, so I'm going to assume that I need this apex charts.min.js. So let's have a look if I actually have this one. So yeah, here is the one that came with the theme. Let's see, this one is probably going to be the same. So yeah, I'm going to take this one. So I'm just going to go here, copy path, and then I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. I'm going to get rid of these data tables one, because I no longer need these scripts. Oh, well. Source. Okay, so clearly this path is not correct. It's Linux, so it's using my entire root. I just want to go from the base server path, like the location of the website, and then go into the folders like we did here. Get this Apex charts thing. Now let's go up to the card again.
So while he's uploading these scripts, I just want to say that if you are using AIC application, it makes no difference. You can use the same path to load this JavaScript. So it doesn't matter which application you are using, this is available for you in any other application. So AIC, in whatever Blender, doesn't matter which application we are developing. This is just a file. You can load it anywhere and have those features. Okay.
Page CSS, and there's CSS, Apex charts, CSS. So this is one I need. So Apex charts, CSS. I'm going to assume it's this one again. So I'm just gonna do the same again. Copy path. You can also use copy relative path if you want to know exactly where it is related to your current file. CSS on top, so link. Oh my god, okay.
You can link any path in your machine.
You want to use compared to like the domain name. So this says, obviously this would not work. So this you want to get rid of. But basically this will use the, like if your website is http www.google.com, everything that comes here will be from after com, like after the main, what is it called, domain name?
Yep.
So
Fully qualified domain name.
Yep.
So we always use relative paths, okay? Because then it doesn't matter if I install this on appsource.com or DJ is a great guy .nl, it will work exactly the same. If you hard code appsource.com or .dj, it might or might not work.
Yep.
It might try to go to appsource to download this file, and if appsource gives it, yeah, so. Well, great success so
it's
far.
loading. So nothing's happening. Let's have a look. What's going on? So this is the chart primary. So let's have a look. What else might I need? Might be some more JavaScript I'm missing. Who knows? Okay, so and there's Apex chart, cart advance.
Yeah. So you need that page JS.
Yep. So cart advance JS. So cart advance. So I have no clue if this is the correct one, but I'll try it. Yeah, Apex charts example. So this is already looking promising. So again, copy path, and then here we go. Here we go. Let's see what happens. They're probably gonna all look the same if it works, because we only have one class. Oh, there we go. So the reason why it doesn't work, because it's probably targeting this class and it's all the same ones, so it's probably only taking the first one. If we're gonna have a look here, yeah, these are different. So this one is probably going to be called class 2. So let's have a look. This is obviously because it's set up with a pre-made JavaScript, so we would make a custom version for this, and this is where you still have to manually pass that data and write the JavaScript yourself to actually populate these things. Like, these themes are great as a baseline, but you still have to like manually come in there and do the work for it. So let's have a little look. Chart. So yeah, I'm gonna have to look in the source. So
So for some people I said, don't worry about the design, get the functionality first, okay?
Yeah.
Once you get the functionality, once you get your users, a list of users, and you can display the information that you display, you can see that I can just copy paste either, data table from one page of Vuexy thing and just adjust the data to be displayed like that, or copy this one, what he is doing, and have graphs and whatever not I want to have. So this is easy. Styling is relatively easy if you have a theme. But first, most is get the functionality right. Once the functionality is right, then it's just this copy paste, adjusting, checking is everything correct. and loading a few files that you might be missing, and then connecting the data with JavaScript is slightly more complex, okay, because it needs to get the data from the back end, and you can get it in a two-way. So either I can create a little PHP thing, which will echo the variable in JavaScript, which this JavaScript will then load and put in, okay? Or I can have a JavaScript to call Ajax, so asynchronously call some backends, fetch the data, and then populate it. You know, so there are a couple of ways to do it.
So I'm not going to spend the entire time to explain how we do it entirely. I'm just going to say how I would approach this. So I can see in this preview they're using the class to define what the color is going to be for the circle. So this is primary 2, this is danger, so if I scroll up and here we'll see this one is chart danger. Now in this preview JavaScript, since this is a baseline just to display the functionality, it actually shows where it gets this, where it grabs this class with JavaScript, and this is the first chart. Like this is the first one, this is the second one, blah blah blah, all the way till the last one, and then we can use that to actually create a new Apex chart, which is a function which uses that library of Apex charts. And here, this is the element it creates the chart on, and this is the options it uses to make that chart. Obviously, since like this is predefined, I have no simple way of like, you know, replacing that data with my own, but I can read how they did it here and then implement my own solution for it by also passing my own data. So in my situation, what I would do is go all the way to the bottom, and then since I don't have a pre-made file, I would either create my own script section on this page specifically. Since it's in the page script section, this is only going to happen on this page. I can either do it like this and write my code in this file, or I can make an extra file specifically for this page and write it in that file. Personally, what I do is I start on this page, and if it gets really long, I move it to its separate own file to keep it structured. Yeah, that's how I would approach it. And then, yeah, you basically look how they did it in their JavaScript of their example, and then you adjust that to the code that you need. I think it's a little bit excessive to go and do this.
So what do we have right now on the page?
We have one, obviously, because only one is pre-made, and it only selects the first one of the one with all the same class. But since they all have the same class, this is how they're all.
How do we have a dynamically different class?
You can do that with JavaScript. So basically, you check with JavaScript is a value.
So show me the classes. Show me in the original code. What are the difference in classes?
So this is primary 1.
Where do you see that?
I go here. So this is the class employee task chart primary 1.
Okay, so they basically hard-coded this name, say
Yeah.
this is chart primary 1, okay?
Yeah.
And what's the next one?
The next one is, hold on, so here we go, employee task chart danger. And then the next one is employee chart success.
Okay.
And we can see that it's hard-coded because it's also in the source. This is not created dynamically,
Yeah.
so
So see, for these themes are not perfect, okay? They are taking a little shortcut here. So they said, oh, what if you only have 6 employees? We'll call this one primary, secondary. That's not how it works, okay? So to identify these, I would have some sort of ID, so I can call it employee chart dash, and then I would print out user ID, okay? So if you go to the VS Code,
yeah.
okay, and find that employee chart thing, where is that? Employee chart. So instead of primary 1, okay, just delete that primary 1, or leave the dash, okay? Let's leave the dash, okay? And then echo user ID. Yep. So this is not going to fix the problem, Okay, but
Yeah.
can you reload the page and see the source
You'll
code?
still have to do primary, I think. 'Cause
No, I don't want to. I don't want primary at all.
yeah, then it's not gonna do anything.
Yeah, I know it's not going to display anything, okay, but I want to see the source code, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
I want to see the HTML of this page, okay? So when you look at these charts, so
12.
this is saying chart 12, and this one is saying 9, and this one is saying
Chart
10 and so on. So basically each element, one way to do it, but I could also could give them some ID numbers and so on. So now I have each element in this HTML with a different unique name which is connected to my user. So what I would do in JavaScript is go like fetch all the user data that I require, let's say success rate in sales or some whatever what I want to display in this thing, okay? And then I would say, okay, find me the element which has chart 10 and put this value. Chart 11, put this value. Chart 69.
So what I would do,
Mhm.
and this is helpful for people that use a lot of JavaScript, it might be useful. I would make a main class that all of the elements have. In this example, this task chart, and then I would pass a custom attribute
Yep.
like this with the actual value. Let's say I have a percentage of the chart, how full it is. I can pass that like this through the front end, and then JavaScript can grab that data ID very easily. So what I would do then here, I'll show a quick example for this because I know we're running out of time, is console log. I'm going to do some jQuery because jQuery is short. I would look for all the class elements. There's a query selector. You can write in JavaScript as well. Document get query selector. All same principle. This is just shorthand with jQuery. So here I'm getting all the charts like this. And if you look in console, we'll see all of them. There we go. Okay, don't mind the data table stuff, but these are all the charts. So here I can see I have all the charts, and now I can manipulate these charts by grabbing the data ID from that with JavaScript and then actually performing that new Apex chart function that we see in the example. Obviously, I'm not going to go into too much detail there anymore, but that's how I would approach it. And then depending on the percentage, I can also in the same function say, okay, now add primary to the class of this element, add danger to the class of this element, and that way you split it up and make separate classes that way and make it easy on yourself.
So for example, it would be nice to see if this is sales, okay? So everybody who has less than 40% of sales, they are not doing a very good job, so I would highlight them in red. So I would say this is danger. Everybody between 40 and 80% is like warning, so it's yellow, and everybody who is above 80% I will have green, for example, okay? So we can do that here. But this is the last few minutes, so questions, guys. Have you got any questions?
So now it is still every time the same element, right?
Yes. Well, it's the same element, but they all have their own index. As you can see, this one is index 0, this one is index 1, so you can still target them specifically. But since they're all the same class, you can like grab all of them very easily to manipulate all of them at one go and like you just for loop over it, right?
So let's say you want filters, okay? So let's say you want only to see the guys who are performing bad, good, and so on. Okay, so we can write a JavaScript which will fetch certain types of people. So if you add this primary, secondary, danger, warning, you can use that. So grab all the with warnings and then filter them out and just hide all the others which don't have it.
I don't know if that was the real question, if there was anything else.
Did you give them an ID manually?
Yes.
Or does this happen?
This data ID I passed in here, yeah. So as you can see,
Yeah,
here.
date ID.
But not a div ID, like a
No.
object.
You can do a div ID as well. I just use a custom property in case like this was just very easy to grab afterwards as well, because this is just specific to this element, and it's I don't know, it's just yeah. You can call it just ID by itself as well, but this is a custom attribute. If I want to call this data sales, it would work as well, and then I can target it. I know what it's about. So
So there are multiple ways to define the ID of this element. So you
Yeah.
can say, you can even call it a name, give it a name if
Yeah.
you want to, or ID number, or
Yeah. The
put
main
it-
reason why I wouldn't use ID in this situation is, what if multiple people have the same percentage? If two people have 88, then you have two elements with the same ID, and then you'd be in trouble, because then JavaScript wouldn't know anymore which one of the two you mean.
Yeah. Another thing, if I have multiple tables, okay, so I have table for employees on sales, but after that, I don't know, their age, and after that, the earnings, and after that, then those IDs would be the same. Okay, what Thomas can do here says data sales, data conversion rates, data money, data costs, whatever here, so he can have those separate. Multiple ways to do the same thing. So it's not wrong, but just to see something different. Any other questions? Any questions, guys, online? Okay, so guys, you all have your web tasks pretty much, okay? Now, what we want to do is apply the correct theme, a correct look and feel, all right? Which some of you did to a certain extent, some of you didn't, okay? So we might look at these themes, pick up a very nice element, and try to apply it to display it, So just for the practice for the next time, okay, whatever you have done in your AIC hub, apply one of these, like either boxes or these scalable things and so on. What I wanted originally to give to Thomas is to give those sliders, to set up the date of birth of users using the sliders, okay, just to annoy him, So you have to slide from 0 to 12 or whatever your month is, 1 to 12, 1 to 31, and so on. Of course you wouldn't do it like that, but so let's be creative. Let's try to find this. As I say, you can just go online, Vuexy.com, see the code, but the code is here. It's all loaded in, so it's not that hard. So make it pretty. Let's see how it works. Add some JavaScript, custom JavaScript. How would you? People have search box, okay? We can remember last searches, or we can have a thing which will listen if you press enter key, so I don't have to go and click on the button, maybe I just press enter and then start searching, stuff like that, So let's try to make our pages prettier, but also keep them consistent. So don't put your search button to be danger, okay? That wouldn't make sense if you say so. Okay, no questions online as far as I can see in the chat.
Do we need version 3 of the App Source style stuff?
Yes,
I don't have it.
well, that's what we talked about, Git version control. You click on, if you go to here, my admin. So I'm on V3. If I want to switch to origin, to master, this is the first version. So basically you will click and select which version you want. So you just quickly select from one branch to another, and it will automatically load and unload all the files that you need to. However, you also need a MySQL database, because App Source, specifically V3, has different database, and that's what I explained in that lesson, that you can have two databases. So you have my admin, but I also have my admin v3, and then I just swap which one I'm using in N file. Okay, so you need to import another database if you haven't done it, but quite a few guys have done it, so they can share the database with you guys if you need to. He's having fun, he's just going to program this all night.
I'm just showing, like, while you were talking, how I would approach this. So as you can tell, now I'm checking, I'm getting the attribute that I passed, the custom attribute. Now I'm checking if that attribute is smaller than 40, add this class to that element. Let's see if that works. Probably not, because, yeah, it never works the first time. Okay, don't mind the errors. So here you can see I actually got for each element the data attribute. There you go. So again, I still have the same issue. This class, I can only have one because the hard-coded JavaScript. So instead of this, I would actually write for each thing to like the new Apex chart thing that is inside this cart advanced thing. So this new Apex chart, you tell the element. So this would be, in my situation, this element with this index. And then I would add that Apex chart to it with the options we want, which would be that data sales attribute, but that's too far.
But the Apex chart has full documentation online.
Exactly.
Okay, so we are not guessing here anything. We can always refer to documentation to see how we use and make them look like this, look like that. Guys, that's it from today. If you have no questions, you have a little task, so I would like to see some pretty pages. Now, if you are using a mobile application, you can do exactly the same, because we have a theme inside of our mobile application which basically follows the same rule, because basically it is exactly the same sort of stuff. We build our mobile application using web technology, so you have CSS and JavaScript files already preloaded. It's not Vuexy, it's not Metronic, it's some can't remember what's called. So you can use the same elements, same examples, even if you are building a mobile app. So first you create basic stuff, and then when you get it to work, like login page, you can just apply, load the scripts, CSS, load the JavaScripts, and boom, you have all the functionality, swipers left, right, and so on. If you remember ASIHA, I have those swipers, and menu, when I click it opens, all that stuff. Guys, thank you very much. Hope it was useful, and until next time, which is, I think, this week on Thursday. We don't have any holidays, so see you on Thursday. Bye, and Thomas, thank you very much. Well done, man.